In today's show, we're talking Trailblazers preseason before the exhibition slate kicks off. What are we watching for and what's there to be excited about? Shaedon Sharpe, zone defense, Jerami Grant. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond, listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts. Make the show your first listen every single day, 5 days a week, free on all platforms. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. Fun show for you today. We are hours away, depending on when you're listening to this, from the Blazers kicking off their preseason slate. They play Monday evening in Seattle and then Tuesday here back in Portland against the Clippers and the Jazz, respectively. It is our first chance to see what this new group looks like, and it is importantly a new group. So I want to talk about sort of things I'm excited about to watch, things I'm curious about to watch, and a couple little sort of predictions about what I expect to see from the team this year. I'm nervous to do this first segment if I'm keeping it a buck, because I did a whole excitement over Shaedon Sharpe thing heading into Summer League. I did a whole optimism show and a whole 10 minutes of getting hyped up, and then he got hurt right away. Obviously I didn't do that. It was more, Jaden Ivey and genetics or whatever, but like, man, I really am ready to see Shaedon Sharpe. No doubt about it. I'm ready to see Shaedon Sharpe play. He is the most exciting part of preseason for me. He's probably the most exciting part of preseason for you. We just haven't seen him. And this is coming out of training camp. All of the praise has been effusive, but it's also kind of like the nature of it when a reporter asks a player on the team, like, so what have you seen from Shaedon Sharpe? They're just not going to say he sucks. Typically guys praise their coworkers unless it's truly bad vibes. But I'm not like hating on any of the reporting from camp or anything like that. Just like, it's the nature of it, is people are going to be positive. They've been positive always. They've been, from early on in summer league workouts, his teammates were excited, like, oh man, he's so special. You hear the same thing coming out of training camp now. It's like, oh, he has some special tools. Certainly tempered expectations. The quotes from, and shout out to Sean Hyken of the Rose Garden Report for wonderful reporting from down in Santa Barbara this week. But like, from Sean's reports, a couple of the quotes I've seen is like, depending on what you want to read, you can get whatever from the Shaedon Sharpe news. Like, I think Chauncey Billups was pretty clear, like, yeah, he has a long way to go. And Dame said sort of the same thing. It's like, he's really good and will take some seasoning, but he's got some skills that no one else has and some physical tools that no one else has. Yeah. It's okay to get excited about Shaedon Sharpe all over again. We just haven't seen him play basketball, whatever it was, 5.5 minutes of preseason action. Obviously no college basketball. I don't think a lot of us were watching the 2021 EYBL circuit, but if you were, you got a good look at it. Shout out to my man Reggie Walker. I'm sure Reggie got a good look at Shaedon Sharpe at the EYBL circuit, but like, just in general, we haven't seen him. So I am so excited. Like the part of preseason that's getting me excited is to see Shaedon Sharpe play basketball. But what does he need to do? What's like a baseline for Sharpe? He doesn't need to be great. I do not need him to be great. Like, I am ready to see him catch the ball on the wing, beat his man, and hit like a 16-foot pull-up jump shot and go nuts on this podcast. Like, I'm ready. I'm ready to see his, I'm ready to see him like miss a putback dunk on an offensive rebound and go nuts on this podcast. I'm ready for it. But in general, like, he just hasn't played that much basketball. So when you do, like he hasn't played that much basketball in this high level of a setting as it will be against a real NBA team in which Kawhi Leonard and John Wall are expected to play for, and Paul George are expected to play for the Clippers. Like, we're going to see the whole version of the Clippers that just hasn't played in a while. So it'll be a really good test depending on what kind of matchups we get for Sharpe. But I don't need to see him dominate, right? I don't even need to see him be one of the Blazers' like 5 best players. If he is, awesome. what you want to see from young guys, and particularly someone like him, because I think he's a different beast than even just like a typical rookie, just because of how few reps he's had at playing high-level basketball. You want to see flashes. You want to see 3 or 4 things. Say he plays 18 minutes, right? Maybe 25, somewhere in that range, half the game. You want to see 4 or 5 moments when you're like, yeah, yes, I can see how that translates. And it doesn't need to be making shots. It doesn't need to be, blocking shots at the square, as we've heard reported from camp, is that he's just chasing fools down and blocking them at 12 feet in the air. Like, it doesn't need to be that. It doesn't need to be a crazy poster dunk and all of those things. Like, those things would be great. They'd be great. Like, boy, will it be fun to record this show on Monday night if Shaedon Sharpe plays like that. What you need from Sharpe, realistically, is to have enough plays that you can see how it translates into whatever they do next. Like, what you actually need from Shaedon Sharpe is 2 times on the wing, he catches it. Once he goes into a pull-up, once he gets all the way to the rim. And then the next time when they give him a little space, he hits a 3 or shoots a 3 cleanly, right? Like, you need to see him go through the different ways he can attack. You need to see him make decisions on the fly against a scrambling defense. You need to just a couple physical gifts, a couple good-looking decisions, just like anything that looks translatable to the league. If he goes, if he shoots 4 of 16 shots, love to see it. But if he shoots like 4 of 16, I don't care. There's almost no statistical measurements that would make me worry if there are some physical tools that pop. I think I'm lower in general than like your typical Blazers fan, just judging by the emails and YouTube comments and what I've seen on Reddit, etc. Like, I think I don't know, like generic Blazers fan is like ready to call this young man Kobe Bryant. I think that's unfair. I don't want to do that to him. Like, I don't want to talk about Shaedon Sharpe like he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the greats to ever play the game, because I think it's an unfair expectation. But I'm willing to get excited about his star potential if we see some star potential stuff. Star potential stuff. Individual shot creation. If he can get the ball and create his own shots off the bounce. There's a wide range of dudes who can score off the bounce. There's Dion Waiters on one end and there's Kobe Bryant on the other. Like, there's, it's not all the same. It's like J.R. Smith and is a guy who could create off the bounce, but he was never, obviously there's like there's different routes to get there, but that is sort of a prerequisite for superstar stuff, his ability to go get your own offense. The self-created, the pull-up jump shots, I want to see him get into that. And then I want to see him attack the rim, use that athleticism functionally, and I'm not worried about his defense in game 1. We'll talk about it in the future, but enough stuff offensively, decision-making, and that individual creation stuff that is an easy way to get excited. That's what I want to see from Shaedon Sharpe. That would make me excited. I am, like I said, well, I'm not as hyped is because I don't think he's going to be he said he wants to win Rookie of the Year. I don't think he has a path to win Rookie of the Year this year. I don't think it seems unlikely he'll get enough minutes to do that and enough shots to do that. And that's fine. He can be a star, an absolute star in this league, even if he has a complimentary role in year 1. What I want to see from Shaedon Sharpe is the makings of someone who can sneak into an NBA rotation, and then we will get more excited from there. One of the problems, though, with the Shaedon Sharpe debut is that you are not going to be able to watch it. Root Sports, the Blazers, the channel, the regional sports network that broadcasts the Blazer games, is not broadcasting this game. It will be broadcasting KTLA in Los Angeles, so it will be on NBA League Pass for those of you out of market. But, Yar, aye Captain, ahoy there, matey, y'all know what to do. If you need to sail the 7 seas to watch this game, I'm not encouraging you to break the law, but there's an opportunity to do so because the Blazers Sports Network has chosen not to broadcast preseason games in the past. It's one thing to not broadcast them in Portland. I always think that's weird, but to not broadcast one in Seattle, when you're based in Seattle, just strikes me as cheap and stupid. Why pay to broadcast the Blazer games if you're not going to broadcast an historic event in Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle? 2 NBA teams back playing in that city. What the hell? So if you do want to watch Shaedon Sharpe and you are in market in Portland, in the Portland, the Root Sports coverage area, you're going to have to get creative in the way that you do that. Or you're just going to have to come back because we will recap what we saw here. If you don't own an eye patch or have a parrot on your shoulder or know what I'm talking about, just come back and we'll talk about. I will find a way to watch the show. I'll watch the game, and then we will talk about it here. Okay, that's my complaints about regional sports networks and encouragement to everyone out there to get creative, yar mateys. Let's talk about some other stuff I want to see in the second segment, specifically Jerami Grant. Super intrigued by the way he is utilized. Let's talk about what that might look like in the second segment. But first, I want to tell y'all about LinkedIn. Listen, these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Here's what you do. You just use their simple tools like screening questions, and it'll make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to hire and who you'd like to interview. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn the number one tool in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonNBA. That's linkedin.com/lockedonNBA. To post your job for free, terms and conditions apply. All right. Let's talk more preseason stuff. I'm excited to watch Shaedon Sharpe. Go flourish, young man. Go flourish. The other person I'm excited to watch, Jerami Grant. Blazers' big acquisition in the offseason. He is such a key part of what they want to do. Jerami Grant is basically he's the guy who, if he fits, like their sort of ceiling, their baseline of competency is really high, because it's like you have that defender, you have that other scorer, you have that length, that athleticism, like you have the forward you've been searching for. And I think like a good version of Jerami Grant helps, like, just it prevents the bottom from falling out of this team. And if he really fits, like, he does raise the ceiling a little bit. But for the most part, what Jerami Grant to me is like sets the baseline of how good this team could be. If Jerami Grant's good, they're right there in the mix for a playoff spot, like avoiding the play-in. Like I think they can be right there depending on how well he fits. I think. If there's some growing pains with figuring out his fit, or if he's not quite like as impactful defensively as you were hoping for, then, there'll be some other concerns. But like in general, he's the guy who kind of sets the baseline for how good they're going to be. Obviously Damian Lillard, but I think he's more bankable in terms of his production and what he's going to do. But so much of Jerami Grant's fit on this roster to me is how he fits, and I'm really curious. That's what we'll be watching for in the first couple preseason games, and certainly the first preseason game, is how do they use Jerami Grant. Grant wants to, like in his core, he wants to get isolation, then the mid post, and go to work from the mid range. Like Jerami Grant will take some pull up 19 footers off of 2 dribbles this year, and you'll be like, what? Why? Like he that's part of his arsenal for sure. But I want to see how the Blazers like utilize him in the sort of non-late clock Jerami go to work type sets. I kind of know what he wants to do. He's a good athlete who can attack, but he wants to shoot in isolation. Like that's part of who he's been the last couple of years in Detroit. We'll see how he fits here. And how he fits here is like, some of it is just like some utilization questions. I think Grant will mostly be used as a spacer and slasher. Like, I think what the Blazers want to do is play a, spread pick and roll offense where you have Dame and you have Ant and you have Nas and you have Jerami, all can attack the paint, like can get in slash to the paint. You get to the paint, you draw help defense, you kick it out to the perimeter, swing, you get threes, or you swing it to the backside and drive again against a scrambled defense. Like, I think that's the ideal Chauncey Billups offense. It was a little more movement heavy. They called more sets early in the year, but kind of once they settled into the sort of late December, they're bad then. So it's like hard to tell, but it's like late December, and even the stretch where they played against Memphis heading into the All-Star break, Memphis and Milwaukee. Like, it's basically spread pick and roll. It's less sets and more spread drive and kick stuff. And I think that's where Jerami fits. Like, he's going to be on the second side as a shooter and a slasher. And I think his slashing ability is something they really haven't had. Like, in theory, Naz and him are both guys who can put pressure on the rim and attack. You have that, add that element. It really helps. Josh Hart is the same way to some extent. And if you think Anthonee Simons can take a step in that direction, then you've really got some people who can get all the way to the rack. It's an intriguing and fun offensive attack that we will see. I am certainly intrigued by it. But I want to see if Jerami Grant and Dame or Jerami Grant Ant have two-man game, like if they run pick and rolls, high pick and rolls with him, and what that looks like, if it's only pick and pop stuff, if it's true, him diving to the rim, or if they run like stack or Spain pick and rolls, that'd be double pick and rolls of various varieties. Those aren't the interchangeable words, but various varieties of double pick and rolls with Ant or with Grant and Nurk, and what those look like, who pops, who dives. I mean, you can guess who dives will be Nurk, but like what that looks like and what the actions look like, how they manipulate Jerami Grant in the offense is super, super intriguing to me. Like where he gets his touches. I don't want to see him get the Carmelo Anthony, here's respect for the veteran mid-post ISOs. Not the same coach. You got to hope that it's different, but I will be, one of the things I'll be watching closely and certainly talking about on this podcast is how does Jerami Grant get his touches? How does Jerami Grant get his shots? That is intriguing to me. The other thing I'm going to watch is the Dame and Ant pairing. They're both really good, and I'm not really worried about their production on offense. Like I think in general, it's like, how will they fit like off the ball? I think Anthonee Simons is going to be fine. I'm worried about them on defense. I think they might stink on defense. That's the worry. I think Ant's going to be, his catch and shoot numbers were awesome last year. He might be a little bit worse, like overall production than if he doesn't get the ball as much, just like counting numbers wise. But his skill set doesn't suggest that he absolutely needs the ball in his hands. I'm not worried about that. One thing I would like to see though is some Ant Dame centric actions where the defense has to deal with both of them in the same action. Dame and CJ for most of their time together were really good, but they would split the floor, and so defense would, one swing it to the other side, the other, and it's like it's Dame on one side, CJ on the other, or one coming up from the corner and you kick to him on the wing. Like, they weren't often involved in actions together, which would force the defense to make some decisions. They're same with Dame and Ant, like they're like size the way that Dame and CJ were, so like you will have defenders who can switch the action, so it's not like you're going to force this like really brutal switch and be able to take advantage. But I think putting your best offensive players into the same action can force defenses to make hard decisions. Chauncey was better at that as the season went along, and probably better at it than Terry Stotts ever was. Although Terry Stotts' defense or offenses were great, so like whatever, it's just something he didn't do. I want to see more of Dame and Ant in actions together, forcing defenses to make a decision, because they're both, they're running a dribble handoff or a quick little like pistol action where it's like a handoff into another pick and roll, but Dame is the guy whose man is the help responsibility in those actions, so you don't want to help off Dame, etc. Like just little X's and O's stuff, wrinkles. I don't know if typically coaches are relatively vanilla in preseason, but with a new crew, Billups has some incentive to try the stuff he wants to try, and I think he will. I think we'll see it. So how that works. The other thing is who plays and when. This is the thing I care most about with coaches: who plays and when. I think it's the number one thing coaches do is decide who plays and when they play. You do a bunch of coaching beforehand, you do some coaching afterwards, but like in the game, NBA coaches, the biggest thing they do is make substitutions, decide on combinations that are out on the floor. Obviously there's more that goes into it, but I really believe something like 60% of NBA coaching is like putting the right dudes on the floor at the right time. In the regular season, it changes very much later on, but like I will pay attention to the groupings eventually. What I will actually pay attention to in the preseason is the first round of subs. Some coaches, particularly with more veteran teams and more teams with a little more continuity, will intentionally be wonky with the subs in preseason. They'll sub 5 guys at a time. They'll sub in groupings that never play together. They'll have Olivier Sarr be the first, like the Olivier Sarr or equivalent, be the first sub off the bench, because why not? It's like they will do that. Last year in his first season, though, Chauncey Billups pretty much showed us the rotation night one of preseason. And I'm just talking first sub. Second subs don't matter. Even the third quarter subs don't matter as much. But when you get to about that 6-7 minute mark of the first quarter, who comes in off the bench, like who starts and then who comes in off the bench, that has been, at least typically with Chauncey Billups, a pretty good tell of what the sub pattern is going to look like. So I will pay close attention to that. And like I said, I think it's pretty Dame, Ant, Nazir Little, Jerami Grant, Yusuf Nurkic, that's who I believe will start. Josh Hart's your first guy off the bench. Gary Payton's your second guy off the bench. Justice Winslow's your third guy off the bench. I think 8 guys are pretty much set in stone for the Blazers. So I'll be paying close attention to 9, 10. I'll be paying close attention to Trendon Watford, who I think is 9, and then the 10th guy, right? Like, is it Drew Eubanks? Did they go bigger? Is it Shaedon Sharpe? Did they let him play? Did they figure out a way to get Jabari Walker in there? Like, what does that look like? What is, I'm having a hard time seeing Greg Brown playing at all this season, but what does his utilization look like? What do they do with Keon? Like, what do they do with the math between basically the Keon and Shaedon Sharpe minutes? I'll pay attention to that. I don't think we're going to learn a ton in the first couple preseason games, but I think that first substitution pattern will tell us a lot about what Chauncey wants to do. All right, to close the show, I got a prediction for the Blazers. I think they're going to be among the league leaders in this. I think it's a pretty safe bet. So let's talk about that in the third segment. But before we do that, let me tell you about Bet Online. It's the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your sports action, regardless of whatever that sports action is. You'll find it on Bet Online. Listen, I'm recording this during NFL Sunday. You can get all the lines, props, and odds on all of your NFL games. You can do it on college football all weekend long. That's on betonline.net. You can bet on any other sport you're looking for. So why not go take advantage today? That's Bet Online, where the game starts. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You are still listening to Locked On Blazers. What are the Blazers? The Blazers are going to lead the league in this category, or darn close to it. They're going to be top 5 in the league in this category. It's utilization of zone defense. I think the Blazers are going to play so much freaking zone, and I think we're going to start seeing it this year against the Clippers. Here's why I think they're going to play zone a bunch. They already did it last year more than you thought they would. They introduced it early and they were horrific at it. And even when they were tanking at the end of the year, they played a bunch of zone. In preseason or in summer league this year, they played a bunch of zone. They're going to be, I am calling it now, calling my shot now. Top 5 in the league in zone utilization. Top 5 in the league of frequency of playing zone. I straight up just think it's a lock. Like it is absolutely just going to happen. Why do I think that? 1, as I just mentioned, they've done it before. 2, it's a personnel thing. They're going to want to play small. And one of the ways you can play small is switching a bunch and just trying to keep dudes in front so you don't get caught in as brutal in isolations, because every action you're switching and just keeping the ball in front of you, and you kind of have that principle of, okay, pass it off, stay in front, pass it off, stay in front. Like that, just a sort of a universal switch to play playgroundy style defense to keep guys in front. It's a way to, sometimes it's a way you can get caught with bad matchups, but it's also a way to just kind of, I don't know, hide is the right word, but negate some of your defensive struggles, because your principles are pass off and help. Like, hey, this, if they move this way, we're just going to switch that action and let it go. And zone in the NBA is basically a switch scheme. And what I mean by that is, like, depending on your familiarity with NBA defenses, or like if you played high school basketball or whatever, like in high school and collegiate basketball, you can guard a spot a little bit better. Hey, you are the bottom corner and the weak side of the zone. You can't do that in the NBA because there's too many good shooters and attackers. You have to match up. Like, you have to you have to be guarding someone or the zone is just broken right away. Like it's just immediately broken. That's what the problem with the Blazers was last year. They were really bad at matching up. Teams would just overload the zone, put 3 guys on one side of the floor where the Blazers had 2. The Blazers would screw that up and give up a bucket. Like it was like very easy to beat them in the zone defense. They got better at it throughout the year. They've absolutely been hammering it in camp. We're going to see it, but part of it is like you just have to match up. So I think what's like the switch scheme that they would rather play is like you play zone because it is basically a man switch scheme. I think they're going to play 2 different zones. I think they're going to play 2-3 and 3-2. 2-3 would be two guys at the top. 3-2 would be 3 guys at the top of the zone. I would love to see Jerami Grant play in top of the zone as the high man in a 3-2 zone. That I think that could be really intriguing. Also put Nas there and keep Jerami Grant down low. I like it, at least in theory. They're just going to I think we're going to see them play a bunch of it. I think they're going to commit to it and stick with it. And, it fits their principles. They already want to play pretty aggressive and switch a bunch with their man-to-man defense. The zone defense allows them to continue to do that. Plus it keeps Nurk from running out around the perimeter and lets him kind of, because of the principles, stay a little bit closer to the basket. He's your best shot blocker, your best deterrer. The thing that a Nurk does better than anyone else in the roster is be gigantic. He'll be gigantic in the paint and deter people from driving to the rim if you're in a zone, because the principles will keep him close to the basket in theory. They're just going to play a bunch of it. So be on the lookout. I'm going to be on the lookout for 2 types of zone, 3-2 and 2-3. They will call it from the bench almost every time. So if, depending on the way the broadcast works, when the Blazers are going back on defense, watch Roy Rogers, the Blazers defensive coordinator. He will stand up and he will make a call. And that call will be man, which I believe is the fist, although they switch it up a little bit, or zone, which I believe is all 5 fingers out. Watch those couple different things. I'll get the calls after watching one preseason game. That's my recollection from last year. And you can just see what they get into and see how they do it. They're going to play it a bunch, so get used to it. The last thing I'm watching for the Blazers is speed on offense. Every year, almost every team in the league talks about playing faster. The Blazers have done this forever under both coaches, under different organizational structures. They talked about playing faster. I do not think Damian Lillard wants to play fast in the NBA. He's one of the best offensive players in the league, and he likes to play a little bit slower. It's hard to criticize a guy who's one of the 5 best offensive players in the league when he's right for you should play a different way. Should he? Should he? Should he? Should he? But it's a thing they're going to talk about. So with me, I'm not expecting the Blazers to run when Dame's on the court. They're just not going to. It's just zebras and stripes or whatever it is. Like he's just tigers and stripes. I believe it's tigers. Sorry. Apologies to zebras. Like they're just gonna. There's just not so much he's gonna do in year 11. Like he's gonna play the way he plays, and he's really good at it. But when Dame's not off the court, I expect them to run. Or not on the court, I expect them to run. And the thing I'd like to see from when Dame is on the court is to get into stuff a little bit faster. You don't need to like Wes Unseld grab it off the glass and throw an outlet pass to midcourt and like try to score 7 seconds or less Suns. I don't know, Wes Unseld and 7 seconds or less Suns in the same sentence. Those are definitely the same era of basketball. I nailed it. They don't need to be either of those types of teams, right? They don't need to be the late 70s Washington Bullets or the D'Antoni era Suns. But getting into stuff faster, getting into your actions with 18 on the clock as opposed to 14 on the clock matters. You need to play. I would like them to play a little bit faster, but that doesn't mean they need to lead the league in fast break points. It means they just need to push up, because when you push, you force teams to match up early. And if you force them to match up early, sometimes they get caught in bad matchups, or they get caught, or you just catch them before they're truly set on the help side, or all those things. Just get into stuff earlier. I don't expect a dramatic change in this, but I think them playing a little faster has some real value. So that's what I'm watching in preseason. Shaedon Sharpe, Jerami Grant, how the Damon Ant pairings work, the first substitution, how much zone they play, and the speed with which they initiate their offense. You're listening to Monday, October 3rd show. On Tuesday, October 4th, we will recap that Seattle game. Wednesday show will recap the Tuesday game. I'll be back in the building, excited to watch a Blazer game again in person. Very excited to be back for the season. That'll be Wednesday show recapping that Jazz preseason game. We'll get more player previews later this week. It's here. The season is here. The wait is over, which means Locked On Blazers, 5 days a week, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Make it your first listen every day. How about you make your second listen the Locked On season previews? We are previewing every team in the league. We're breaking teams up into groups. It's going to be on the Locked On NBA feed, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. The hosts, no other network can do this. I don't know, it's Locked On's unique. We got a host, we got a daily podcast for every team in the NBA. We're all getting together within sort of organized groups to preview our team and talk about other teams with the hosts that covered the show closely. People in market who know what they're talking about. It's a ton of fun. These preview shows are a great way to get started. So subscribe to Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. Come back and listen to tomorrow's show. We will recap the Blazers' first preseason game and get excited about Shaedon Sharpe. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.